Welcome back to Wake Up America. I'm Allison Maloney. For the first time ever, the U.S. will participate in a massive simulated airstrike on Iran. The news coming as fear is growing that Iran is close to nuclear capability. Jerusalem correspondent Daniel Cohen joins us live from Israel with the story. Good morning, Daniel.
Hey, good morning, Allison. Good morning, everyone. The U.S. is preparing to join what's being called the largest military drill in Israel's history, with thousands of soldiers and reservists taking part. The drill will include a simulated attack on Iranian nuclear targets. For the first time ever, like you said, Allison, the U.S. Air Force will send refueling planes for exercises with Israeli fighter jets as they simulate entering Iranian territory to carry out strikes. The unprecedented U.S.-Israel aerial collaboration on Iran's nuclear facilities meant to send a message amid stalled negotiations in Vienna. On Tuesday, Israeli Defense Minister Benny Gantz, just before getting on a plane for the U.S. to meet with Lloyd Austin at the Pentagon, warned that Iran is just a few weeks away from gaining enough resources for a nuclear bomb.
Even today, Iran is making an effort to complete the production and installation of 1,000 advanced IR-6 centrifuges at its nuclear facilities, including a new facility being built at an underground site near Natanz. Iran produces metallic uranium at the enrichment level of 20% and prevents the IAEA from accessing its facilities.
Negotiators are once again trying to revive the 2015 nuclear deal under President Obama. It was supported and is by President Biden, despite strong and repeated warnings from Israel that it would lead to a more violent, more volatile Middle East. Last month, Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi threatened strikes against Israel if it makes the tiniest move, those were his words, against Iran. The Biden administration has reportedly agreed to lift devastating sanctions imposed under President Trump, which would unfreeze billions of dollars. The sticking point now, Iran reportedly demanding that the U.S. lift the terror designation of the IRGC, Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Allison, one more thing. That joint U.S.-Israeli aerial exercise is set to begin May 29th.
Oh, all right.
Now back to you.
Daniel Cohen, thank you so much. Rob?
All right, Allison, thank you. We are continuing our primary coverage. 5 primary elections happening yesterday across 5 states all around the U.S. Pennsylvania, the Senate race there, the one we've had circled on the calendar for weeks now, still too close to call as you wake up this morning. In the governor's race in Pennsylvania, Trump-endorsed candidate State Senator Doug Mastriano winning the GOP nomination for governor there.
Joining us now from Pittsburgh is host of KDKA Radio Afternoon News, Rick Dayton. Rick, good morning. Thanks for joining us. So I do want to get your reaction to the governor primary results that have chosen Senator Mastriano to be the Republican candidate. He was endorsed by Trump. What do you think of that?
I think that the GOP here in Pennsylvania tried to consolidate. There were a number of candidates who dropped out in the last probably 72 hours before the primary. And many times what they ended up doing was throwing their support behind someone other than Mastriano. Lou Barletta was the one who oftentimes received the support of those other candidates who dropped out along the way, yet it didn't make enough of a difference. It was literally an 11th hour attempt, it seems, by the GOP here in Pennsylvania, which some people are saying, hey, does that really mean that there is unity within the Republican Party in Pennsylvania if the person who looked like he was going to win was not necessarily supported by those others who were dropping out? That's oftentimes not the case. The big question right now, there is a huge difference between Mastriano and Fetterman when you take a look at the politics there. But at the same time, there's also a huge difference between him and the one he'll be running against, which is Josh Shapiro. Josh Shapiro has been the attorney general here in Pennsylvania. He ran unopposed on the Democratic side. So you're looking at a Mastriano versus Shapiro in the election coming up in November. And I think that'll be very interesting to watch and see because the two of them are very, very far apart right now. The Shapiro situation, again, running unopposed, everybody knew that he was going to win. He had said for a long time that he was citing the position of governor after Tom Wolf had been term limited out here in Pennsylvania. So this is going to be one to watch. I know a lot of people are talking about the Senate race, but I also think that the governor's race in November is going to be interesting.
And let's be honest, Doug Mastriano, we've had him on the show here on Wake Up America in the past. He's been very clear that he is not thrilled with what happened in 2020, particularly in the state of Pennsylvania.
Right.
If elected, he will appoint a Secretary of State that will redo the rolls in Pennsylvania so we don't have recounts and we don't go through what we're about to go through in that Senate race. Dr. Oz David McCormick next neck and neck. The two candidates separated by just about 2,500 votes. It's all going to come down to these mail-in ballots. Political analyst Mark Halperin was with us moments ago. He said this could take 3 weeks. When are we going to know who won this race?
Well, this is not a surprise to those of us in Pennsylvania. I believe this is the 5th time since 2004, when the election laws were put in place, that if there is a difference of half a percentage point or less, you will have an election runoff. And so Pennsylvania going through this once again. The numbers right now, the latest that I have seen, have them separated by about 0.2 of a percentage point between those two. Didn't Kathy Barnett factor have something to do with this? Was this kind of like a situation where Ross Perot came into a presidential election and split the ticket, if you will, and took some election votes away? Kathy Barnett had a very strong third place finish, somewhere around 25%. Whereas you look at the McCormick and Oz, right now, the latest numbers that I have, 31.3% for Oz, 31.1% for McCormick. And then you look back at 25.4%, give or take, for Barnett. She certainly took away votes from both candidates. Now, it's impossible to know, did she take more from one than the other? But Kathy Barnett's strong push in the last probably 10 days, and on a shoestring budget. The other two have spent a lot of money on this race. Kathy Barnett had somewhere around $2 million that she had raised. Very, very big difference in terms of the money that was spent by those other two candidates, for sure.
Yeah, just very quickly, do you think she had gained traction, Kathy Barnett, but then we had those controversial tweets? Do you think that's what completely just changed the trajectory of her campaign?
I think it was more than that. I think it was just too little too late, that she didn't have enough time to respond to them. You talk about November surprises in elections all the time. This was sort of a Friday, Saturday surprise for her. I don't know that she had the ability or maybe even the money to respond to some of those things that came out against her at the last minute. And I think it was enough to have some people at least questioning whether or not she was the right candidate.
Rick Dayton, appreciate you being with us this morning. Come back and see us. This race, again, especially that Senate race, we got at least a couple of weeks until we know who the winner is there.
We'll be counting for a while here in Pennsylvania.
I think so, once again. All right, that's Rick Dayton from historic, famous radio station, KDKA, out there in Pittsburgh. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you so much.
Good morning.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.